Well, good afternoon from Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca, and this is my husband Nathan. And we're here at our farmhouse build site again, except we are not going to be working on the farmhouse today. We're having a little bit of fun in the garden because we have not been able to get our hands in the dirt, our own dirt at least. He farms for a living.
Yep.
But we have not been able to get our hands in our own dirt or garden at all this year. It's been really hard with seeing everybody get their gardens. They're starting to get first fruits out of them, and we've grown nothing. Absolutely nothing. I did start some seeds a while back that you saw me start, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. And we have some very leggy tomatoes and tomatillos and okra that just really need to get put in the ground somewhere. And we just haven't been able to do the final grading around the house. The beautiful cottage garden that we have planned is probably going to be a project in the fall that we get ready for the next growing season next year. So we got back over to our farmhouse and we kind of looked around and we picked a spot over by the drain field area that was already dug up, but we have solid red clay. And a couple months ago we put down clover seed over the drain field thinking, oh, we'll grow a little bit of clover, have it add some nitrogen to soil. Not even the clover grew. It either washed away or just never germinated. So we are here today going to try and amend the clay soil on a shoestring because most of our money is tied up in building the house behind us here, so we don't have a whole lot to spend on getting a garden started. So we went to Growing Green Family Farms today and got some of their leftover byproduct stuff that they have. So they have leftover perlite from microgreens that they can't reuse, so we got some of that to help break up the clay. And then they had a failed, I don't know, seedlings or something back in the spring that they had just some extra dirt that had potting soil type stuff that they had thrown out that was in the compost pile that we grabbed. So we're going to be over here today kind of dumping that all out, raking it out, and then maybe my dad can get his tractor over here another day and till it all in for us.
So we did an initial till after getting some perlite down a couple weeks ago. You can actually see that video linked above. And we are bringing more perlite. We're just hoping that with how clay has a tendency just to bind together so tight, the perlite is a nice aggregate material to hopefully loosen it up. Same thing with that potting soil mix. It has some vermiculite and perlite, which should do very well at just preventing those clay, which is a flat particle, from laying on top of each other into a really, well, concrete-like surface. So this looks really good. It's nice and fluffed up. Now we'll get some organic matter on it and hopefully be able to retain that type of loose factor that it currently has. Otherwise, after we get another rain and more sunshine, this will turn into a brick again. In our last garden, we had it about 25 feet by 25 feet. So we're going to mimic that here. Plus we found a sprinkler head that should do well in doing a good overlapping air watering system for that. It technically can do 30 feet all the way around, but that accommodates for the square edges because with the sprinkler we have, it's a circle. So we're hoping that will prevent any dry spots from forming in the garden. It's snowing! So perlite is a waste product of Growing Green Family Farms microgreen production. So we found that to be a really good media for growing microgreens for our farm. And then what we do is use it on the land just to try to help break up the clay, because the clay around here for most of the land has been stripped of a lot of its organic matter, so there isn't any more of that aggregate material. It's oftentimes high in iron and high in silica, which are helpful, but it has a tendency to bond really tight together and literally turn into concrete. So we're looking forward to seeing how this can help our garden, which, as you can see, is right next to our house build. So nice and convenient, very much in our Zone 1 permaculture circle for our homestead.
As you can see here, this is what we're trying to avoid. You can see this literally looks like a brick. It is just solid clay. And that's what we're trying to break up with all of this perlite and some of this nicer potting soil that was just left over. so that we don't end up with a garden, because nothing can grow in just solid brick like that. So we're hoping to prevent a garden failure by adding some of this stuff in.
So we didn't have time to get goat manure from one of the local farms just up the road from here. So we are instead going to be using a composted chicken manure that has already been aged and safe to apply within a short period of time of planting and harvesting your produce. So this particular variety is called Harmony. It's a 543 for your NPK with 9% calcium. What's nice about this is if you're planting any tomatoes in particular, or even peppers, the calcium can help prevent the blossom end rot. Because of the organic matter, it has a tendency to feed all the enzymes and the good bacteria in the soil, and we're hoping that this just continues to help to revitalize this soil here to continue to pave the way to hopefully a productive garden for our homestead here.
So obviously this is not like the ideal way to get a garden started. We're just trying to get something going on a shoestring budget that we can grow something in and it won't just immediately die if we had like planted directly into solid brick clay. So just using things that we are able to find cheap or free, that are waste products from others that don't need them or don't need a giant pile of perlite lying around, will allow us to get started in growing our garden this year.
So here in upstate South Carolina with the Carolina red clay, we have soil that is a bit too low in the pH for good vegetable growing. Some of our soil pHs around here could range from 5.1 to 5.5, which isn't bad for blueberries or some of your tomato varieties, but ideally for a lot of your other greens, you're looking at closer to 6.3 to 6.5 being what you shoot for. This lime here is a natural product that helps to just create a buffer for that pH to bring it up a little bit higher. Palmetic lime has some more calcium added to it, and we like the pelletized version because dust from lime can aggravate the lungs and has been shown to cause different health issues as well. As a pelletized form, it greatly reduces that potential risk. So we'll be spreading some of this on here to hopefully just increase that pH a little bit to be a little bit more appetizing for a vegetable garden. Was it?
How much does that normally run cost-wise?
This 40-pound bag, I think it was $3.49. Very inexpensive, cheap way to continue to condition your farm. But another nice product that we'll also be getting is gypsum. Gypsum is a material that, if you have heavy clay environments, helps to naturally break up that clay. So both of the lime and the gypsum together work very well. And
it's pretty affordable, like you said. It's not that expensive for one bag. And same thing with gypsum. It's pretty affordable to get started, especially for a small garden in an area like this. So when we talk about not having finished the final grading, you see behind us here that we just started putting dirt in the big holes that we had in the front of the house. But underneath the house, you can see we have a ways to go. Our goal is to get to, I don't know if you can see it here.
About this.
About that height. So we have quite a bit of dirt, which behind me over here, you can see we have a good sized pile of dirt that we'll be using to fill in a lot of this area. And then we also reached out to some of our neighbors, and there's someone that has a lot of fill dirt that they're actually trying to get rid of. So it'll be a win-win. They have a dump trailer that we're gonna see if we can rent from them, or at least have them deliver it for us, so that we'll be able to bring the grade up a little bit on the front side so that we don't have quite so many steps up into the front door. And from the front door behind me is what is going to be eventually our cottage English style kitchen garden that we're gonna have. And our goal is possibly this fall, once we have the grade up to where we need it to be, to do a huge load of wood chips and just let them decompose over the fall and winter so that next spring we'll have beautiful soil to plant into.
So one thing we're excited about is we got our first delivery of wood chips from an organization called Chip Drop. If you need access to wood chips, whether it's for your garden or landscaping, this is a great source just to access it for either free or very inexpensive. The way it works is it connects local arborists with you as either a homesteader or homeowner, and you just put a request, any special instructions. Like, we had pretty specific instructions here on where to dump it, how to dump it, and they followed it to a T. We ended up going ahead and, because we wanted this load of mulch pretty quick, donating $20. That way it helps cover their fuel costs, but then creates an incentive for them to get to us sooner rather than later. And literally within 3-4 days, we already got a load of wood chips that quick and for a price that you just can't get anywhere else. So we're very excited about this and can't wait to put this on our pathways. We're going to clean up and put it along the entrance area of our property here, and just continue to see how this natural resource continue to help improve the land around us. So one of the most invaluable things you can do as a homesteader is get to know your neighbors, like just reaching out. Field dirt around here is about $250 to $400 a load, depending on how large it is. So just to be able to find someone locally and a neighbor 4 minutes up the road who has some and just wants to get rid of it is a huge blessing. So reach out. Oftentimes there are different types of Facebook groups or different types of texting groups to unique geographic areas. Just seek out where and what those might be, and see what natural resources you might have available right around you. That is one of the things that has helped to make this garden possible for us this year, because we're able to get this 25 by 25 plot up and going for less than $50. Otherwise, oftentimes it's easy to look at different numbers and just get discouraged, because once you start getting, $200, $300, $400, $500, especially with building a house, we would not be able to do it.
As you can see, it didn't take us too long to get this all spread, and it's just proof that you don't need a huge space. And granted, we have a lot more acreage this year that we're able to play with, but you don't need a ton of space. This can fit in anybody's backyard and in pretty much anybody's budget if you're able to get to know different neighbors. Like, we have a neighbor that does have goat manure. It's not decomposed quite yet, but that's something we're planning on using in the future. There's some chicken farms around here that we can get manure from, so there's a lot that's available around if you just start asking around. Well, we hope you enjoyed joining us to see how you can get a garden started for less than $50, just using neighborhood contacts and some affordable things from the farm and garden store. Catch you next time.